Hello, beautiful people. It is a rainy day in New York, and I just wanted to pop on here real quick and talk about a little something that's on my heart, which is discernment. The topic of discernment. So, for those who don't know what discernment is, it's basically a mental indicator, a download, to help you decipher whether you should or should not do something. Some people say, oh, God spoke to me, or this was in my spirit, or this was in my soul, something to do, something not to do. So the reason I want to talk about this is because a lot of time we get like little indicators of things that we should watch out for, things that we shouldn't do, people that we shouldn't have in our lives, or people who time has expired in our lives, but yet and still we still continue to hold on to these said people or these said situations. So when you go against yourself is when you are not using the discernment that's given to you, or when you haven't recognized that this is actually an indicator telling you don't do this, or don't go there, or don't have these things or people around you. And every time you go against yourself, you end up with conflict, right? You end up being in situations where you're like, dang, I knew better, or dang, I saw this coming, or this came to me and said, don't do this or don't go there, but you go against yourself and you do it anyway. And the lesson is going to be there for you to learn, because sometimes the trials and tribulations lay in the lesson, right? It's in the lesson. However, a lot of times what we do is we prolong the class. We prolong the lesson. And the longer you stay in that situation, the more intense the repercussion of that becomes. Because we all have like, an inkling or something that comes through, and it's like, you know what? I really should not be taking this job, right? Just for example, I really should not be taking this job. This job goes against me. It goes against my core of who I am. It has me feeling like I'm compromising myself. But I'm doing it anyway because, you know what? This is a way I gotta pay my bill. This is something I gotta do right now for my family. Not knowing that sometimes if you just lay off of it for a while, or if you just lay weight and just stay within your emotions, stay within your feelings, stay within your gut, something else, another opportunity is gonna come along that's gonna be better than where you were, or take you to the next step of where you need to be. Sometimes to be in a job doesn't mean that this is where you're supposed to be and this is where you're supposed to retire. But a lot of times what it is a vehicle that's going to take you from one place to another financially, so that you could afford to fund your dreams. Okay? So, this has just been on me because I've been coming into contact with people and me myself that has really gone against self. Sometimes I have somebody around me and like my senses, my gut is like, you don't really need to have that person around you, or that person don't mean any good. And you see certain actions, you see certain behaviors that are troubling to you, and you're like, you really shouldn't have had that person around you. But because of loyalty, because of guilt, because of so many other different emotions, you still keep them around you. And in the end, everything that you knew, that your gut told you, was exactly what happened. And sometimes it's amped up. And it's amped up because you took too long to react. You took too long to react. I had a particular situation where I had someone around me in the sense of business, and I knew I was supposed to sever that relationship and sever that tie. I know it had. I seen a lot of indicators, a lot of behavioral patterns that I'm just like, you know what, you should have done this. And I said to myself, sometimes We doubt ourselves because either we move too fast or we move too slow. And we just want the timing to be perfect. You want the timing to be right. Okay? You don't want to react or move in haste. And I said that to myself. And I meditated on it. I prayed on it. And I asked for clarity. I asked for discernment. I asked that my timing be right. Okay? And what came to me was, your timing had passed a long time ago, girl. You should have been did that. But you didn't. But it's okay. I'm going to show you. So when you ask God, when you ask the Creator, when you ask the Source, when you ask the universe for guidance, it's going to give it to you. It's going to give it to you with a matter of fact. Meaning, it's going to give it to you so good, so raw, and so hard that you can't deny that your question is being answered. There's like no denying that your question is actually being answered. That what you ask for is what you're going to get. So we make it super clear. So you know that situation I just delivered you from, you better not go back there. And you better use that level of discernment to identify when that situation starts looking familiar to you again. Okay? Because a lot of times, even though you get deliverance from a situation, it wasn't your doing. It was intercession, right? It was intercession that helped you out of that situation, because had it been for your own will, you would have still been there. So guess what God does? Guess what the Source does? Guess what the universe does? It puts you back into that situation, right? It puts you back into that situation because your soul actually did not learn. You actually got aided. You got help, right? So it's going to put you right back into that situation and say, okay, well, I helped him or her the last time to get out of this situation. Let's see what they do when they have to do it themselves, right? And guess what? When the uncomfortableness of that situation, the prior situation, was, let's say, on the level of a 4 or a 5, now he's going to amp it up. Now you're going to amp it up to a 7, right? Or an 8. And say, okay, she's going to see, or he's going to see this coming straight on. Straight on. So there's no mistaking. There's no mistaking. But when you don't see the situation, it becomes even worse, because it's like, damn, you know, I was dealing with, let's say, for example, an employee that was doing things to me that was on a scale of, you know, from 1 to 10, a 4 or a 5 that I wasn't comfortable with. Now I'm going to drop somebody who's doing some really shady stuff on a level from 7 to 8. She's going to see it. She's going to feel it. She's going to act fast and swift and cut it, because she already went through that situation that she was aided out of. Okay? And when you don't see it, the repercussions become even more costly. It comes at a stake of your comfortability. It comes at a stake of your sanity. Okay? Of your peace. It cuts it. So I'm saying this to say that a lot of times we have the inclination, we have that level of discernment, but we question and we compromise ourselves for the sake of not doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable. If I tell this person no, oh my God, you know, they're going to look at me a certain way. They're going to act a certain way. They're going to think that, you know, I really don't care for them, or I don't love themselves. But at the bottom of it all, you have to love yourself first. And if you don't see that doing something for someone is compromising you or who you are, that person is not going to take that into account. So we have to really go within, right? And when you go within and you know yourself and you start to love yourself, you know when something does not feel right, doesn't look right, and then you're able to make that conscious decisions to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. My inner soul, my gut feeling is I shouldn't do this. I'm going to have to use a level of discernment on this situation, because I know at the end of the day, the only person I'm hurting or compromising is going to be myself. Okay? it's going to be myself. So in this new world that we're living in, I think it's so important for people to go within, because the answers to all the questions you have lie within. What you need to do or need to not do, you know that from within. And sometimes it's not even deep. Sometimes it's like right there on the surface. But we don't want to tap in because it's something new. It's something new, and we don't want to tap in because it makes us feel like, oh my God, you know, where is this coming from? Am I really listening? Sometimes your first thought is the right thought. Your first choice is the right choice, because you're thinking and you're coming up with this unconsciously. When you start creating scenarios, which takes time, that's when you go against yourself. That's when you go against yourself. So I'm just going to leave you guys with a word. And the word is also for me, right? Because a lot of times I do look back on my videos and like, yeah, girl, you listening? Take that advice. It sounds good coming out, but when you got to take it in, it's a whole different story, right? So use a level of discernment when dealing with people in situations. If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't look right, it's not right. Your first reaction is the best reaction, and always go with your gut feeling. It's going to spare you in the end. On that note, again, I say have a great and blessed day. Stay well. Talk to you next time.